See, conquer.
You know, Ernest, you
what a
have...
nice audience.
Aren't they lovely?
Lovely.
You have played a lot of tough guys in your movie roles. A lot of difficult roles. But when our staff contacted you about appearing on the show, you were doing your laundry. Now, that's not exactly a tough...
Doesn't everybody?
That's not really a tough guy image. What do you like to do around the house? What do you do around the house?
I do everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I had a woman that we were paying her $40 a day, as a matter of fact, to come in 5 times a week, you know, clean up the house. And then she started complaining that the work was too hard and everything else. And I tried to show her one day that, and no, she said, no, I quit. I said, all right, quit, that's it. So she left. My wife said, what are we going to do? And I said, the house is done. And she said, well, who did it? I said, I did. And, well, it all came about that when I was a youngster, my mother used to go on shopping, you know, on Saturday mornings, and she'd leave the house in my charge.
How old were you when she was doing this?
Oh, I was about 12, 13.
Really?
14, yeah. And she'd say, all right, now, you do it, and you do it right, or else you don't go to the movies. I got a big dime to go to the movies, and maybe a nickel extra for candy.
For candy, right.
And she, many times she came back, and I'd worked my tail off, you know, trying to clean up the house.
Yeah.
A 2-story home that we had, and sometimes she'd just rip off the bed sheets and no, it wasn't done right, and do this over again and do that over again. She made me do it right.
So you learned?
So I learned the hard way, and she taught me everything, and she taught me how to cook and sew and
you
do the
sew?
laundry. Sure.
What do you make?
Well, I don't crochet like Rosie Greer does, you know, all that stuff.
You needlepoint.
Yeah, needlepoint. But I do...
you can make, like, curtains?
No,
or...
no. I take care of breeches that need sewing or...
Darning and things
like that, yeah.
You know, you mentioned your mother, and I would love to talk about your early childhood. Your parents were immigrants, right?
That's right. They both came from Italy.
And your mother's from royalty.
My mother was a countess, and I had the opportunity of going back to Italy with her when she separated from my dad when I was just a boy, and 2 years of age, as a matter of fact. And at that time, he was feeling his oats and wanted to kick up his heels a little bit, so she decided she'd go back to Italy. And we stayed away about 4.5 years. And when we came back, well, he was a new man.
He settled down, right?
He settled down. And I never saw such a pleasant relationship between two people after that. It was marvelous. And
were they very young when they got married?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it.
She had come over from Italy to visit a sister, and of course, then they married, and they were enthusiastic kids, you know, and they were having a good time until things happened. And when I came back, I couldn't speak a word of English.
Ah.
And
you grew up in Hamden, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And the very first morning I went to school, my mother used to dress me up in those little Lord Fauntleroy things, you know, with the... Oh, boy, I was a sight.
I can't imagine you in an outfit like that.
Yeah, me, a tough guy, right?
Yeah, really. So what happened to you in school when you were...
Well, the very first morning I went to school, these kids from the brickyard said, volete andare per il gioco, which means, would you like to play? And I said, si. And so they put me in a tire. You know, we rolled down the hill in a tire. That was considered fun in those days. And instead of rolling down the hill that they were going, they put me down just a little bit different, and I went right into a mud puddle.
Oh.
And never went to school the first day.
Oh. What did your parents... Now, when you came home with the mud all over you and the short pants, did you tell your mom, I don't want short pants anymore?
No, you didn't dare tell Mom that. You just wore what she put on you, and that's it.
And so you wore that for a while?
And I wore that for a while until she saw that, you know, other kids weren't wearing them, and then everything turned out fine.
Were your parents pretty strict?
Boy, were they. If my mom didn't give it to me, my dad did.
Strong Italiano family type of thing.
And they both, my mother spoke with an accent. She never got over her accent, but my dad had a perfect English, you know, he just spoke beautifully. As a matter of fact, he had quite the ear for different languages, and I can recall that he learned how to speak Polish from one of his jobs that he was on. He spoke beautiful Polish. I never forgot. And he was that kind of a man. Finally ended up as a metallurgist, believe it or not.
Oh, is that what he did then when you were growing up?
Yeah.
It must have, I've got to ask you about your mother being a countess, coming over to this country. Was that tough on her to make that transition from Italian royalty to, it was during the Depression too, wasn't it?
No, this was way before Depression.
Before Depression time, so things were pretty good then.
Oh, sure. Actually, I don't know how she felt. I mean, I'm sure that she didn't think she married below her station. She loved my dad.
Oh, I know that.
No doubt about that. I do remember that when we went back, I remember my grandmother and grandfather quite vividly. And my grandfather was the financial advisor to Victor Emmanuel, the king. I don't think he ever did a good day's work in his life, you know. But in the morning, he'd get up and he'd get in his carriage with his spats on and his cutaway coat, you know, and his top hat, and his chauffeur would take him out to, with the horses, no less, beautifully all rigged out, you know, and they lived like barons, they really did, until, of course, Mussolini came along.
Yeah.
And I can recall seeing Mussolini as a boy when he was first coming into power, and he came into the great square of Milan, and I was down between my uncle's legs, looking up, and I saw this tremendous man coming on this absolutely white horse, and he had, I'll never forget it, all dressed up in black with a black fez. And they asked me one time if I wanted to play Mussolini, and I turned it down cold. But the thing that I always wanted to do was to wear that black outfit with that fez.
And you should have played Mussolini. You could have done it.
I should have.
Ernest Borgnine is currently filming a new movie called Escape from New York. And Ernest, thank you so much for being with us one-on-one.
It's my pleasure,
Terrific.
darling. And I must say that you are the easiest person to talk to I've ever been with.
And I didn't pay him to say that.
Still to come, Toni in concert.